you can do anything. You can really, like, I know that's very childlike to say, but you can do anything. You just have to measure it and how much you're willing to sacrifice to get it. So the point of this tattoo is, how badly do you want to perform? How badly do you want to be above human or better than human? So this is ripping out parts of your body and replacing them with mechanical pieces or little servos or whatever you want to call them at the elbow joint, just to make yourself better, even though that's clearly very harmful.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of The Way of El Marco. I am your host, El Marco Antonio Alvarez, and today's guest is no other than the one and only Ethan Jackson.
That's quite the introduction, Mark. Thanks,
you, buddy. Hey, man, welcome to episode 20. Thank you for being my guest today.
No, of course. I was kind of surprised and happy when you invited me on. I mean, I loved having our chat when we first officially met a while ago, and now it's gonna be cool to just kind of lean back, relax, talk, and see where we end up.
Yeah, 100%. So I want to kick things off on a favorite memory that I have of you, and it involves a cat and something an Irishman said, Bill Walsh, and it was in the ejection box. And you were either reporting a win or asking a question or something, and he goes, Ethan Jackson, where's your ugly cat? And there was like this, just like it almost seemed like the air went out of the room, and he stops and he's all like, what? That was mean or something like that. It's so
Oh man.
Let's open it up with cats. And your cat, okay, is it a male, female? Like, what's the story? The rescue kitty or something? Like, please, I'm curious.
I'm not. This is what makes it even better. She's sitting over there just out of frame. Let's see. Can I there?
Oh, there she is.
Just out of frame. But she's yeah, I never been a cat person at all. I've always dogs, and even then I'm not a super huge animal person. I like my cleanliness. I like to keep things in order, and animals kind of fight with that. So um when me and my fiance moved in together, she had a cat and a dog, and it was fine. I'm fine with them. It's whatever. But then out of nowhere one day, she brings home a little thing the size of a small potato. Like, it is very tiny. And it was Shade, the little dark cat. And she almost hit it because it was in the road as a little tiny kitten. It was like right in the middle of the road. She slammed on her brakes and swerved, and then got out and grabbed it out of the road, and then got back in her truck and then brought it home. We were gonna give it to the SPCA or something, but you see how that ended up.
So what happened? Did you fall in love with this cat?
Yeah, that's my cat now. It's not even her cat.
I was gonna say, dude, because that cat is kicking it with you. That cat's like, that's my human.
Yeah, and I just got out of the shower this morning, and she's sitting right on my little bath rug, like waiting for me to get out of the shower. It's I don't know how it happened, but that's my little kitty now.
Well, it's that beard of yours, though.
All right.
Like, making biscuits in there, and just like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna sleep in there. Right on. Well, cool, man. Cat stories are always great. I like cats as well. I like both cats and dogs. There's just two separate types of creatures, man, and I really don't fall for the, I'm a cat person, I'm a dog. It's like, no, dude, if like the animal's cool, then we're cool. Cause it's like, there are some cats that are dicks and weirdos, just like there are dogs that are dicks and weirdos too. So
I think that's what I learned. I think that's what I learned through this. Cause again, I lean towards the dog side because I mean, if I'm going to be honest, they're stupid. I love how stupid dogs are typically. They just want love and affection and food and water, and then they're going to love you till the end of time. Cats, they are smart enough to choose to be mean, which I struggle with sometimes, but yeah, they're still cool regardless.
That's funny, right? Because that's that whole thing of them being like the most lovable assholes, right? I think I saw this comic strip. It was hilarious. There was this dude, he like came across this wizard, and the wizard's like, what, I forget, he was going to give him a wish or something, and he's just like, all right, well, can you just make me a lovable asshole? And boom, he turns him into a cat. So
No kidding.
So man, so the first time we got on the Zoom, maybe what, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like
Something
that.
like that.
I got to learn a really cool fact about you, which relates to the helmets, not necessarily the motorcycle helmet, but the two white ones, the hard hats there, and that you are a civil engineer.
I do want to kind of just be super clear with it. I never actually finished my degree. So if you talk to any elitists out there,
Oh, they're gonna be all
they will
like,
deny me.
okay, gotcha. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
I was towards the because I made my shift into the online world at 22, which
yeah,
is when you're starting to wrap up college.
yeah,
And that's about the time that I started to lose faith in the 9 to 5, lose faith in typical college degree
yeah.
centered careers. And I kind of just ended up letting it tail off. And well, I have my 2 year degree and a good chunk of my civil engineering, and I was working as a civil engineering assistant on construction sites and all
Okay,
that kind
so
of
you were
stuff.
already in there putting some time in and getting
Oh
some,
yeah.
yeah.
Like I was already making progress towards
Okay,
because to become an official engineer, you have to have so many years or hours or however it's measured under your belt
yeah,
before you can take the official test. That's like a federal test, not even a college test.
gotcha. Well, fuck the elitists, right? Fuck
Yeah,
those
right.
guys, right? What what drew you into that field of study initially? Was it just your own? Was it from the
Math.
you
It
say
was
math?
math.
Math.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the weird thing that I've always been strangely good at and I've always strangely liked. I, I can't explain it, but when I when I see numbers and I see different aspects of life, the first thing that comes to mind is how they're fitting together and how they divide equally amongst this or whatever. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but that's where my brain instantly goes whenever I see something.
that's cool.
So kind of
That's
natural.
yeah, that's really cool. So, what was the highest math that you had to study in order and with
Uh,
your
Depending on who you ask, one of these could be more difficult than the other, but I'd say the top three that are comparable are I had to do Calc 3, thermodynamics, or sorry, there was physics 2 that was harder than that. And then differential equations. Depending on who you ask, any of those three of those could be the pinnacle of difficulty.
gotcha? Yeah, I mean that's what they usually sound like too. And
Mhm.
so that's cool. That okay, let's go into this whole math thing because I'm always fascinated by it. Actually, I bought a big old, I want to call it a textbook, but this whole like
Yeah.
applied mathematics book and the history of math and everything like
Mm.
that. I just like having stuff like that around. And also, when my son's old enough to understand it, we're gonna do some lessons in it. Math has been said many times that it is the language of the universe.
I'd agree. I think that if we're because the sun is the sun because we've named it the sun. The
Mm.
planets are what they are because we've taken these abstract objects or things and we've named them so we can keep track of them in our head and use them to communicate back and forth. That's what language is. But even if it wasn't named, even if there was nothing to put a label on it, it would still exist. Its mass would still exist. How it pulls on the other planets to orbit would still exist. Even if no one understood it, it would still exist because those numbers are naturally playing on each other.
Right. Right. So yeah, it's like, yeah, the sun's the sun because we named it that, but then mathematics is no matter what, 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4.
Yeah, even if no one knows how to say 2 or 4, or no one's there to call it that, or no one's there to count how many cookies they have up to 4 cookies, it's still four. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's another part of it that I find fascinating when like programs like SETI, right? So now, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence,
Oh, okay.
right? And when they got the satellites set up, the satellite dishes here on Earth, just waiting to receive a message, but then also sending out messages, right? And a lot of times they are sending out, if I'm not mistaken, they'll send out like mathematical equations, right? Or at least in the hopes that a response will come back, because if a civilization is advanced enough to receive that message and they realize that, oh, they're sending a math problem, right? I can only imagine, like, it gets to the wrong alien and it's like, oh, these assholes want us doing homework. Oh, we're not talking to them.
I think that's I never really thought about that. I didn't know about SETI. I'm not really super versed on extraterrestrial or anything like that. But I think that if you were going to try to communicate, I guess that makes the most sense because even if you have no semblance of communication between one or the other, if you manage, I don't know how you would do this, but if you managed to communicate a basic math problem, they would have, in order to even receive that message, they would have had to figure it out to that point where they would understand the basic math problem. So I guess it's on them to figure out how they're communicating that, but that makes sense.
That's the general assumption, right? That's the general assumption that if they're able to receive that message, then they should be able to figure out this next step, which then allows us to know that at a certain level. And
Yeah.
hopefully they don't want to show up at our front door and beat the shit out of us and take our stuff.
Because if they could get here, then they're probably better than us.
Yeah. Imagine, do you ever watch The Walking Dead?
Up to like a season after Negan was introduced. Like I think I watched the Negan season and then stopped.
All right. So then you'll understand this reference. So yeah, next thing you know, they're knocking on a door, and they're like a space Negan, right? Alien space Negan. They're like, give me half your shit or you're dead.
Yeah,
right. You go, dude.
And then thank me for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I see the Millennium Falcon up in your wall. All right. So I take it you're a huge Star Trek. I'm kidding. Star Wars fan.
You had to be messing with me. I knew it. No, I'm a weird amalgamation of hobbies that seem to contradict each other. Like I've got the motorcycle and the firearms and the jujitsu and stuff like that. And then you take the other side of me and I've got the Dungeons and Dragons and the Star Wars and the Marvel. It's like I'm these two different worlds that I'm a part of.
That's badass, dude. All right. So like me, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons for a while, right? And actually got into other role-playing games later when I was in the army, played werewolf and vampire. And those were pretty cool. All right. So your jiu-jitsu background, tell me about that. What's going on with that?
That's something I'm more lightly into because I've always been it kind of paired with my interest of firearms, and then you get into the situations where that's not necessarily a proper course of action.
Yeah, right.
Or it's not an option at all. So you think, well, in order to be able to protect myself and my family, I need to know how to handle myself physically as well as gunpowder. So I think, and what boils down to is in a practical scenario that you're most likely to come up to, grappling always just seemed to make the most sense. Because no matter which way you strike it, because there's effectively two types of fighting: grappling and striking. Striking is punching and kicking and all that, and then grappling is hands-on. It always seemed like is no matter how good of a striker you are, there's always the chance that the other guy gets a lucky shot. I mean, you could talk to people like Conor McGregor and all the best strikers out there. Like Conor McGregor might be the best striker on the planet, but there's always the chance that you slip up. With grappling, it kind of weighed off in my mind that as long as you have your hands on them, if you're better at grappling, you win. There's not really a chance of lucky shots when their hands and arms are tied up. So,
yeah, that's the thing. And it's if you got two guys fighting and you got a striker and a grappler, and the grappler, well, this is where we get into it, right? Where the grappler knows how to cover up and work his range and timing, and to get underneath the punches or at least absorb some of them so he can come in for a takedown. The fucking striker's done.
Yeah, it's on the pressure's on the striker. Like it's.
But if you got but if you got a striker who knows how to sprawl and defend against takedowns, right, then you're going to have a real interesting match. So remember the fight with here's a good example. We're taking it back a little bit. When Ronda Rousey fought Holly, I forget her name, Homestead or something like that. She was the kickboxing chick.
I didn't watch it, but I can see it like in my head.
Okay, so Ronda Rousey, Miss Judo Queen, fucking coming in, grab you, throw your ass, take you down, armbar. That was her fucking MO. And then the chick she was fighting was a champion kickboxer, and her camp had her fucking trained essentially like just how to do these mini sprawls, and that just like thwarted her game. And then eventually she just figured it out, and bam, just fucked her up. But I also come from a grappling background, and that's definitely my I would say that's my go-to for sure. Because dude, like when you punch somebody, and I don't think a lot of guys realize this, like you can kill somebody, dude. Like if they fall and hit their head. Like I had a buddy right? Well, we're still friends. He's not dead. He's alive. I should rephrase that. I have a friend. Anyway, he one time got drunk with another friend of his, right? And they got into a fight. He punches him. The kid falls, hits his fucking head on the curb, and he's in a coma for 3 days.
Oh,
Comes out of it, drops the charges, right? But it's always one of those things where, like, if that dude didn't come out of it, that friend of
a huge
mine,
issue. Yeah.
dude, right? Now, when you think about grappling, where it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna take you down, I'm fucking, put you this and that. All right, cool. So, how often do you train? Is it Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Is it old school Japanese jiu-jitsu? Like, what's your
It's
preferred flavor?
Brazilian, and I since I got in a car accident last year, which I can't talk much about because lawyer and stuff, but I haven't trained much since then. But definitely before then, it was Brazilian. So I got a buddy that's way more into it than I am. He actually goes to the gym. He's got a belt. I don't do any gi stuff, any belt stuff. I'm all jeans and a t-shirt grappling just because that's what I'm actually training for is
Yeah.
if I get into that situation in jeans and a t-shirt.
Sure.
So yeah, he's a lot of fun to train with, and he's very skilled and very powerful, which are two scary combinations if he's got the power behind it and he's got the skill to execute.
Yeah.
Because I've been in the gyms, and it's one of the fun, it may be a little off topic. One of the funniest things is watching somebody that's 120 pounds and extremely skilled. And normally they could take people down at like up to 180, 200 pounds and just like rip them apart. But they get somebody that's like 250, 260, and they have a lot of muscle on them, and the person goes to armbar and you just pick them up slam because they're that light. So, but he's 220, 230 and massive skills. So he's a huge threat and a lot of fun to train with because of that.
Damn, that is a beast.
Yeah.
Jesus. See, that's when you face guys like that, when it's like you're like, all right, you know what? I'll be right back. I'm gonna go grab Mr. Smith and Wesson. So
that's your only option, and that's what's interesting about grappling is because it's such a heavy skill way, that if somebody's significantly better than you at grappling and you get into a grappling match, you almost have zero chance because there is no lucky breaks. There is no, let me try to get this cheap shot. Like you're just gonna get mauled.
I would say, like, if some dude's got a knife on him, right, and he's like a dirty fighter like that, and he knows that he's getting his ass beat, and he's all grappling around, and it's all like,
that's about your only. That's what you got.
Yeah, that's about it. Which then it sucks for the grappler because he's just like, what's going on? I feel like the dude's punched me. Whoa, why am I? Oh God.
Yeah, right. You don't even know what's happening until you're done.
Until you're done. So speaking of all the weapons and stuff, I myself also own guns. I have a pistol and a rifle. I'm a huge fan of the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. And I'm curious. So, what's up with your collection? If you can talk about it.
Yeah, I've got several handguns, mostly just everyday carry trade ups. I don't necessarily. I'm not much of a range junkie to the point where I buy guns because they're fun. Now, there's a couple that I have, like I have a bolt action 22 that's never gonna be useful, but it's fun.
That sounds fun, though.
Yeah, it's very fun. It's very cheap too.
So you can shoot rodents and have just target practice and things like that.
And it's good for kids too, like kids that you're trying to get into guns. That thing is not that I would recommend it, but you could shoot that thing without ear protection at least a couple times.
Sure.
So it's not bad at all. And so most of my handguns are just everyday carry trade ups over the years. And then I've got a shit hits the fan rifle that I've tried to deck out to the point where it's practical in a bad case. One of those guns that I hope I never pull out.
Is it a 5.56 or
yeah.
What? Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, I'm like curious to see how you decked it out.
It's got the attachments on the gun are worth more than the gun itself.
Holy crap, dude.
It's got a hollow sight on it. It's got a 3x magnifier that's easily removable because it's not always practical.
Yeah.
Just some other stuff slapped onto it, grips and canted iron sights, because you never want to have a gun that only, at least in my opinion, you never want to have a gun that has an electronic sight and that's your only means of target acquisition because batteries die.
Yeah, that would be a bad day. At that point, you're just kind of like, well, you're literally going to be aiming from the hip at that point. You're like, best guess.
Trust your point fire. Trust your shoulder fire.
Just right here. Just go like this. You're just running up to the dude really close. You're like, ah. That is hilarious, man. And now, okay, so then got the martial arts, we got the weapons, and then you also ride a motorcycle. Like, what kind of
Yeah.
motorcycle?
I sold that one last year, a little bit before my car accident. But I will be getting another one as soon as this court settles and I don't have to worry about people stalking me and taking pictures of me and be like,
Right.
you can't be injured because you're doing this.
Right, totally.
That's
Yeah.
typical crap.
Right.
But yeah, I love motorcycles, and the next one that I'm planning on getting is a Yamaha XSR 900, I believe is the name of it.
Okay, so you like crotch rockets.
Yeah, so like I've pretty much always owned crotch rockets. I've owned, even like I call them trainer crotch rockets, like the Ninja 650, where you sit more upright, but it's still kind of like that. But the XSR 900 is closer to, if you're familiar with motorcycles, a standard or a naked. It's, if you're familiar with that terminology, it's fast like a crotch rocket, but you sit more upright. It's more comfortable. And this one in particular looks a lot like the old cafe bikes with the single headlight on the front and the colorful flarings.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to get into that. I'm kind of done with my supersonic speed days. I really like just kind of cruising and pop a wheelie every now and then because it's fun, but nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy, just pop a wheelie.
And they're pretty simple once you're actually used to them.
Yeah, I think I've ridden a bike once and I like rode it through some garbage cans. So that's a skill set I got to work on here in the future. When I'm like, all right, cool. And
takes some time.
It does. I like Triumphs. I like those old that classic.
The XSR 900 is very, very similar to the Triumph looking bikes. If you took the logos off of it, somebody who's not familiar with bikes would mistake the two easily.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Very cool. Very cool, man. So let's see. So civil engineering, the math, right? And that's what got you into that. And then suddenly is like, what the hell got you into this crazy ass world of fucking sales, man? Like, why would you do that to yourself?
What's funny is it wasn't if somebody told me that I was going to be a salesperson, I probably wouldn't have ended up in this field just because of the stigma around it. And I bought into that stigma because my father was a salesperson.
Oh,
he was a car salesman.
Oh,
and he's the reason why the car salesman stigma exists.
Oh,
so my opinion on this field is extremely negative with no, that because that was my only exposure. So if you told me that I was getting into sales, I wouldn't be here. But because I bought into the cover up of inbound closing when I got into.
Did you go through the sales mentor too, like I did?
Yeah, that's what I bought into. So I bought into that YouTube ad. They didn't say sales; they said inbound closing. So I got in, started to learn about it, started looking at it as brokering contracts rather than sales, and eventually it's like, well, shit, I guess sales isn't that bad, huh?
Oh my God, dude. That's hilarious. That is so funny. All right. Okay. So you're working in the field, doing civil engineering stuff, come across this YouTube ad where the guy's like, do you want to make $10,000 a month just with your phone
Just
and
with your
scripts and traveling the world? And then you got fucking clips of him just like walking down some alley in fucking Italy, just like doing that.
Or with his coffee at like with a little wire bench at a coffee shop in Italy, texting and making 10 grand. Yeah.
Right. Totally. Or like he's in the middle of a fucking orgy in Germany on his computer. Right. Yeah. Totally, dude. Totally. Right. Like we all fell for the marketing. All right. So what was, I'm curious. So like you're basically got a hard hat to now a headset. Right.
Yeah. Right.
And we came through the same mastermind, which is the UCM.
Right? Yeah.
And so then what was your process like? So how did you transition from, your full-time occupation to what you're doing now? Right. Cause it's it's a ride.
Yeah. I'm gonna steal that, by the way. From when I write a book, hard hat to headset, my story. But it's I did something that I don't recommend, and I'm not the person to ask for how should you do it. I mean, you're asking how I did it, which is fair, but do not ask me how you should do it because I don't know.
That's
But
right.
as far as how I did it, I did the most arrogant, blatant, cold turkey way to do it. And once I felt confident in my skills, I realized that ego and confidence and stuff like that was a very valuable tool as long as you managed it properly. So I managed it properly, buffed up my confidence with a little bit of ego, and I just gave them my 2 weeks with something lined up. Like I had an opportunity lined up that I was jumping into, but I vetted it, ran by JD, had several people check it, people that I trusted. So I trusted them on their vetting. I trusted the people that I met that I found the opportunity through. It's like, all right, here's my 2 weeks. I'm leaving. And then I jumped right into full-time sales, not even making a dollar yet. So, and it worked
Wow.
out, right? I don't
Yeah.
recommend that, but it worked.
For you, it did. And that's
Yeah.
and that's and that's and I would say I don't know if that's a rare case, right? 'Cause there's not enough data, and but the cool
Yeah.
part is that it worked out for you,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
that's the cool part. And
And I
that's
think it would actually like the crazy thing with this kind of a thing is you have like the push and pull of people that would do it versus people that wouldn't even do it in the first place. For the people that wouldn't even consider something like this, if they did it, it'd probably have a super low success rate. But the weird paradox of this, if that's the right word, paradox, the people that would have the ego and the balls to do it probably have a high success rate because those are the kind of people that would succeed just jumping into it and grabbing it by the horns and making it work. So oddly enough, I bet it probably has a high success rate, but only from the people that actually do it, if that makes
right,
sense.
right. I think it's a combination too of that confidence and that drive, and then thirdly, the offer, right?
Mm,
That the offer is going to hit first time through, as opposed to like, going like, oh God, I thought this was a good offer.
yeah. Because I've done that too. Not with the first offer, but a couple offers since then.
So let's see, when did you so how long ago was this when you did the transition and then you did the jump?
Oh gosh. Dates, times, they're all fluid, right? But so last year was 22. So yeah, it was October. Yeah, October, November of 2021 is when I wanted to make I saw the ad in like late October.
Oh
Or
wow.
early November. That's when I saw the sales mentor ad of 2021. And then come February of 2022 is when I is when I sent the 2 weeks in
Oh wow.
and joined
Okay.
my new offer for March.
Okay. So then around that time between October to February, you also joined the UCM.
Yeah, I joined UCM. I signed and made my first payment to JD on New Year's Eve, or sorry, New Year's Eve, Christmas Eve,
Nice. Okay.
December 24th.
Okay. So we were in around the same time. Um, I ended up jumping on the horrible, crappy offer of November of 2021, and I didn't get
Okay,
out.
yeah.
I didn't tap out of it until like January, when I was like, "This is dumb." It's like, "What the fuck am I doing here, man?" So okay, so we're looking at like two almost 2 years. No, wait, like a year and some change, almost a
Year and
year
two
and
months ish,
yeah,
yeah.
something like that. And how many offers have you been on since then?
So I won't count any of them before that March because I had a couple part-time offers that I signed on for. I took one call and closed it, so I get to say I have 100% close rate, but that was the only call I ever took because
That's
in like
still
2 months.
It still counts though. You say, yeah, I had
Yeah,
100% on that call.
100%, 100% on that account.
Yeah, totally.
So, and then I had a couple of offers that I never even got a single call for. So, not counting those, we'll just start with the March offer. I was on that offer for almost a year. I just left them a couple months ago,
Oh
or a few months
wow.
ago. So, yeah, I was on that offer for a long time, and that was my only offer. It's not very common in the sales field that I think people stick with a one and done. But now jumping out of there, I've toyed with a couple offers. I'm on one right now that seems to be going pretty decent. And I've just accepted for my first time, I'll be running two offers side by side. So
Okay.
I'm exciting. It's a little bit of a shift from sticking with my one and done. I got a little too comfortable there. So it's
Yeah.
time to grow.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Always. And so what's your what's your sale process like, or is it dependent on the offer? Or do you have a certain way that you do things?
Well, obviously, I got pretty comfortable in having an offer for a year, so my sales process on that one got pretty concrete. But I had to make a pretty drastic shift because the offer I was on for a year, the price point was like 5K, right? And the offer I jumped to right after that, the one that I'm still with, the smallest package is 95K. So it's a bit of a difference. And it comes with a bit of a difference in clientele and a bit of a difference in the way you handle it. You have to talk with a 5K offer. You can very much structure it around, are you willing to make this happen for X result? Like, is that what conversation you're willing to
Is
have?
that a B2C?
That's B2C. Yeah, and a little bit of B2B mixed into that, but mostly B2C. And this one is still B2C primarily, but it's a very different kind of B2C. Like we're talking people that can drop 100 grand on something or at least get financing for 100 grand at the snap of a finger. So it's a pretty different conversation. Whereas instead of phrasing it like, well, this is the kind of result you could get, are you willing to make it happen? Are you willing to dip into credit cards? Are you willing to do this? You have that kind of conversation of what are you willing to do to get X result? And are you confident that you're willing to put in the work to get X result? Now it's the conversation of this is what's there. You and I have been a part of this industry long enough to understand that this is real. Now let's talk logistics to make sure that this is smart for you.
Mm. Mm-hmm. No
'Cause,
bullshit.
yeah,
Let's get down to brass tacks.
Yeah, and people still need some personal development. Don't cut that out. Like if somebody wants to retire early, you need to keep framing it in mind that you're building this future. No, it's not fun to drop 100 grand and go 100 grand to the negative before you start seeing results. That's never fun for anybody. But you keep your eyes on the long term. You keep your eyes on, I want to retire. I want to take care of my family. I want to take care of this. So you still have that sales process if you have to keep them focused on what they want.
Mm-hmm.
But you are driven in more of I have to make sure this actually makes sense for this person. Because it makes sense for 90% of people to drop 5 grand on something, despite what they may think. If something's going to work and better their life, 5 grand is a small price to pay for 90% of people, even if they don't think it's a small price.
Of course.
But when we're talking 100 grand, that's different.
What are you slanging for 100 grand? Can you say, or is that classified?
No, I could say it's a trucking automation offer. So
Like
you
literally putting robots into the trucks?
Now, automated for the investor. That's a good distinction because I had somebody ask me that on the call. But
what did he say? He was like, so when do I get my robot?
Yeah, he's like, so I want to invest in this automated truck thing. It sounds really cool. I'm like, not exactly how that works, man. We're not there yet. But yeah, basically, if you were the prospect, you're investing into my company. And I'm doing all the work. I'm buying the truck. I'm getting the driver. I'm plotting the routes. I run a trucking company. And because you helped me put a truck on the road with your investment, here's a cut of the profits.
Gotcha. That's what that is. I see. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So then let me ask you a question, because then there's all this. Okay, which one was it that one of the X-Men movies where Wolverine died and they had the trucks on the road, the basically the self-driving trucks.
Okay.
That's coming, right? And so like are you guys talking about it? Do you guys have any plans for any type of, or is that even on the radar for your
It depends on like, you would think it would be more on the radar. And I think it's nothing, nobody's ignoring it. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's ignoring it, but this is something I've learned, and I'm not a trucking expert. Okay. Like I sell the trucking offer. I know what I need to know. And I did my digging to make sure I'm educated enough. But as far as what the trucking industry is going to look like in 10 years and how to implement self-driving trucks, like, wrong person to ask. But what I can tell from talking with people, talking with experts, talking with people that have been in the trucking industry or looking to invest, is the people that are actually familiar with the industry, whether they've ran a trucking business or ran trucks, whatever it is, they never ask about that stuff because they realize it's going to be like trying to pull a whole mountain, like a whole smaller mountain up the side of Mount Everest. Like it's a lot of people that aren't familiar with the trucking industry, including myself before taking this offer. It is a much bigger shift than I think people realize.
Mm.
You are talking, you're talking making sure people aren't killed. You're talking about making sure they can park correctly, making sure they can like line up the stuff, making sure that there's people to manage those maintenance. I don't know. This also ties into the fuel emission thing because the whole thing with electric trucks and self-driving trucks is managing emissions. So even if you're talking electric trucks, which is a much easier shift, it's still the few companies in the United States that could manage an electric truck shift are going to jack their rates so much to cover their costs that it's going to, if they were forced to make the switch, it would crash the economy that forced it. So let's say California, just so I can make sense of this for anybody else. Let's say California forced electric trucks or no trucks.
Right.
Well, the few companies in this country that would accommodate that are going to raise the prices so much to cover what they had to do in order to maintain those contracts. They're going to raise their prices so much that the whole economy of California would crash. Bread would cost $12 because it cost $10 to get it there.
Right.
Like,
right.
And it's not even that bread costs that much to make, but you're going to be paying so much in the shipping cost that you got to charge $50 for a gallon of milk because the trucking company charged us 40 to get it here.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So it's just one of those things that it's like literally like if there's going to be any type of shift in that industry, it's going to be a slow moving, and you got to make sure that shit's on point, dude. Like it's the first person that gets killed by a driverless truck. That's just going to be like moratorium on the whole thing.
Or the first time that, again, let's say there's two companies running trucks to California in our fake example, two trucking companies. If one of those trucking companies has like a truck or two explode because they're electric and it's not optimized yet, that means that like half of California is without groceries.
Pretty much, dude. California shut that shit down, dude.
Yeah, nobody can force their hand on this, at least not now.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, now that makes sense. Okay, because when you're saying automated trucking, the first thing that popped in my mind, I was like, wow, people are already buying into that. I was like, holy fuck, dude. That's okay. Next thing you know, it's gonna be like a space mining offer. That's gonna be cool.
Right? Oh, I want to sell that.
Right, dude. That would be really cool. It's like, so like, how long you've been wanting to be a space miner? Fucking big fan of the Alien movies, man. I just hope don't run into any xenomorphs out there. You know what I mean?
That would suck. There goes my investment.
Right, totally. I'm like, well, we have a xenomorph free guarantee with this offer, right? If you happen to get a face hugger on you, then you'll get your money back. But assuming that you survive, so let's talk about. By the way, the timer, right? The timer just hit.
No kidding, right? It flew by.
I know, right? It's ridiculous, dude. I want to go into just one more topic before we wrap it up and talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
So, like, when did you start playing, and like, how would you guys play? Like, tell me, like, what kind of characters was your preference, that kind of a thing.
So I about a couple years ago. I'm fairly new to this, fairly new for D&D's like 50 years old at this point or something.
Yeah.
Fairly new by that measurement. So, because I always thought it was going to be awkward and weird and stuff like that, and there's going to be a bunch of socially awkward people at the table.
Right.
But what you find is it's hard to play D&D if you're socially awkward. Actually, that's where you meet some really socially adept people. Actually, because you have to pretend to be a character or
role play.
Yeah, and then the dungeon master has to manage the emotions and viewpoints and political opinions of like 50 different characters, and you're interacting with those. So you actually find that people are decently socially adept, at least on the average, more than I'd expect. So I've played all sorts of characters because that's the fun. I get to play somebody that's not me. I get to play somebody with different political opinions. I get to play somebody with different world opinions and what they're willing to die for, all this kind of stuff. And I get to actually play with that. It's kind of like a video game, but typically in video games, those characters are chosen for you.
Sure.
That character is willing to die for X thing. You'd never do that, but you can understand the character is.
Yeah.
But in D&D, you get to create that instead of just play along like the video game wrote.
So you got into it later in life, which I
Mhm.
find really fascinating. And what drew you in?
My friends, I honestly had a negative opinion on it, but my friends were running a campaign and they invited me in and said to try it out.
And then you got hooked. They're like, "Come on, no,
Yeah.
come on, Ethan, come on, just try a little D&D, bro. You're gonna like it." And you're just like, "All right, just one, dude, just one." I'm like, "Fuck,
That's
dude."
yeah, that's the way it was, and it was cool because it was in person. A lot of the D&D I play right now is online using online software to play the game. But
You mean like
um
a D&D video game or D&D with others, like on a like a
think
D&D
of it
Zoom
like
room?
yeah, think of it like you're all on Discord chatting, and when you're playing the game, you're on like a virtual board game.
Are
Like
you rolling a virtual die or are you rolling it yourself and you're like, shit, 10.
depends.
I got a 15.
Yeah, some people don't like physical die because it's easy to cheat. So virtual dice are pretty common there, yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So the virtual die, that's got to be interesting.
Yeah, you just click a button. I mean, it's not as fun in my opinion. I like to use physical die. You just click a button and it rolls it for you. So not as fun, but you still get the whole experience.
Now, do you
I
have
think
to
it's
like
fine.
grab your camera and have it right here and be like, all right, guys, ready? Look, I that's the number I rolled. I'm not fucking around.
I think maybe some people would do that. I haven't encountered that because every time I play online, we all just kind of agree to just use the virtual die where you click it and it shows everyone what you rolled on the screen.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. That's super cool, man. Yeah, I haven't played in years. I've been, you know how it goes, working sales and some offers. It's like, this is something we talked about when we had our Zoom. This
yeah,
whole idea of you're not getting paid for your time, you're getting paid for your performance. But you and I were like, but wait a minute, but you're still having to put in time.
yeah. There's no way you're turning sales into a passive income stream. Like
I don't think there's such a thing as a
no.
truly passive income. I think that's like something in the marketing or some type of misnomer where it's just like, oh no, it's passive, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not, dude.
I will say I was in agreement with that until I got with this offer. Now, people can be skeptical or whatever, but at least my opinion on the offer I'm on right now with the trucking automation, this is one of the very, very few 0.01% of things that is truly passive because if you invested with this company, you sign the check, we do literally all of the work, and then you collect a check at the end of the month for helping us scale because it's a percentage split.
That's what you guys are doing. You're like, we need investors to scale our business. Would you like to be part of this? And you'll get something.
Yeah, so it's like I know on Shark Tank they typically help them build the business, but it's kind of like Shark Tank where asking for this much money for a percentage of this truck's profits. And the only difference between this and Shark Tank is you don't even have to provide any expertise to us. We don't need anything from you except your
Gotcha.
money
Gotcha.
to build the company more.
Is this something that you'll eventually buy into as well yourself?
I'm highly considering it. I mean, I have the advantage of I actually see what goes on. I talk to the owner, I talk to the people running the show, and it seems pretty bulletproof. Like, obviously, like the trucking industry is going to go up and down with the economy, like everything else. But everyone needs groceries. The lumber yard needs their lumber towed there or hauled there, or whatever. It's the world stops if trucking stops. So
Yeah.
if there is something to invest in, it's a very high floor to step into and invest into. But yeah, to answer your question simply, yeah, I could definitely see myself getting into this.
Okay, that's cool. That sounds really cool. And then last thing, is that a tattoo on your arm?
Yeah, it actually goes up my shoulder and then down my ribs. It's like basically one big piece.
What is it?
Maybe hard to see on Zoom, but it's basically my logic with anything in life is you can do anything. You can really like I know that's very childlike to say, but you can do anything. You just have to measure it and how much you're willing to sacrifice to get it. So the point of this tattoo is how badly do you want to perform? How badly do you want to be above human or better than human? So this is ripping out parts of your body and replacing them with mechanical pieces or little servos or whatever you want to call them at the elbow joint just to make yourself better, even though that's clearly very harmful.
You bring up a very fascinating point, being that you come from an engineering background, being
Mm-hmm.
that you have a math math-minded perspective and everything that you just said. And just this natural evolution of what we're doing with robotics and artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
If you had the option to have an AI and robotic upgrade, would you go for it? And it was safe.
There, if it was safe, I think
you were waiting for
I
that.
think there's
You're
a high
like-
chance. Yeah.
You're like this guy.
If so, there's some people that would refuse it based off of ethical or whatever
Oh, sure.
it would be. With me, none of that plays a part. If I can guarantee that this is a safe, it's an upgrade, it's not going to negatively impact my life. Yeah, I have no qualms with it. I would do it.
Yeah, I would too. I would too. And I would do it because, man, it would just be like another level of weirdness, because it's like, okay, I've been in this body for almost 50 years. Let's try it out. Like that's gonna be cool, you know. All right.
That's like if you can guarantee that you're better than you were beforehand. It's like, I've gained weight since I got my car accident, but doesn't change my opinions on things where it's a person that is physically fit. No, not necessarily compared to a different person, but compared to themselves, non-physically fit. You're better being healthy and physically fit than you are not. Like you could just compare straight to yourself. So if you can apply that same thing to the robotics, if the upgrade is going to make you objectively better, function better, have better stamina, whatever it may be, I find it hard to argue with myself on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's just a whole nother Pandora's box right there, which I think would be awesome to revisit when we get you back on the podcast.
Yeah.
For sure, buddy. Well, dude, let's wrap it up, because I
Yeah.
know you got to get going. I got to get going. And that was a lot of fun. Thank you
Yeah.
for being here, brother. I'm happy that your ugly cat made an appearance.
Oh yeah, she's gone. I don't know where she went.
Well, because you know what happened, dude? She was just like, they're not talking about me anymore. So that's
dips out.
Totally, dude. Totally. Well, thanks a lot, buddy. Let's get this thing
course.
wrapped up. And ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode number 20 in Roman numerals. That's XX. And no, it's not an X-rated episode, you perverted bastards. I want to thank my guest, Ethan Jackson, for coming on board. Really appreciate it, buddy. Thank you for being here today.
Of course.
And-
Thank you.
Yeah, man, for sure. And ladies and gentlemen, please hit the subscribe button. Let your grandmother know, because you know she loves this kind of stuff. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, good luck and good night. Button.